Hey guys, and welcome back to NsomniaksDream, and yes, today's video is rather creepy. I was super inspired by the laughing gas victim in Arkham Origins, or really any of the Joker's crazy insane smiles. But this is a bit of an easier look to add to any outfit for Halloween, and you'll probably get a few people refusing to even look at you for any extended period of time. As always, thank you so much for subscribing, commenting, liking, all that good stuff, but if you're interested to see how to create this look, just keep watching. Quick note, the warning to remove prosthetics slowly and with remover is so real because I definitely removed half my eyebrow in my haste to remove my scarecrow makeup last time. Whoops. But moving on from that, I just quickly primed my face with the Makeup Forever Nourishing Face Primer. And then I went in with two of the colors from NYX, the Total Control Drops Foundation, to give myself a little bit of a paler foundation, though it's very, very close to my own. And I just mixed these two colors and then applied it all over with a brush. And removed any streaks from the brush just by patting it down with a sponge. And yes, Alice will once again be popping in and out of the back, so if you randomly see ears or yellow eyes, just know it's her. To fill in my brows, especially my partially missing one, I went ahead and used the Tame and Frame pomade in its lightest color, which I believe is blonde. And then I also used the brow gel from NYX just to darken up the outer edges of the brows, just so they looked a little bit more natural and help fill in that area where I am currently missing hair. I also made them slightly bushy towards the inside just because I feel it would go well towards a little bit of a crazy look. Then taking a Makeup Geek contour powder, I started mapping out the areas where the smile lines would go, as well as all the wrinkling on the face. Something I made sure of when I planned out where the mouth would sit, you really want to try and make it so that your mouth line will be the middle point between the teeth. That way it'll help the illusion a little bit more if your lips aren't incredibly obvious of where they're sitting. It also helps to make crazy, angry, or insanely happy faces so that you kind of get an idea of where your face would naturally wrinkle if you were indeed laughing to death. Then for the teeth, I went in with a water-activated face paint and started painting some blunt human teeth in teardrop shapes. And instead of using a straight white, I use this color called Bone, which has a slight yellow tint to it that I find helps create a more realistic teeth color, since not all of us are actually rocking bleached pearly whites. And you can always brighten them up later, which we will do later on. Also, counting your teeth helps with symmetry. Once the teeth were in place, I took a pink water-activated face paint and started using this to create the gum line that would be showing if your mouth was stretched wide in a forced grin. And this color pink is a little bit unrealistic for what your gums would look like, but you can always darken it with shadow, which we will do in a little bit. Then for your fake lips, you can choose whatever lipstick color you like. I went for one that's a little bit of a darker berry tone, but kind of natural looking. And you want to start painting this around the mouth line you have created. You want to make sure it gets thinner towards the outside, because as your lips get stretched that wide, they would become almost barely visible right on the outer corners. And then taking the shadow called Aphrodite, which is really just a dark red plum color, I use this to start shading in the mouth, darkening around the gum line, creating that separation for the lips, and better defining the teeth. I'm also using a really fine brush here because this area starts getting so tight with all of the little details in the mouth that it's better to start really small and build up than to go in with too big of a brush and kind of start muddying up all of the work you've already created. Then jumping away from the mouth for a second, I took this peach eyeshadow and started shading around the contour lines that we had laid out originally. And I used a dense pencil brush to pack down the shadow along these lines and start building up the depth for the recessed areas that we want to look sunken in. Using the light shadow first is very forgiving, so you can kind of be a little bit ridiculous with it and just apply color wherever you feel the need. And then once you're kind of happy with where the color is building up, you can go in with the brown contour color that we used originally and start better defining these lines and making them look even more shadowed. And again, for something like this, I'm using a really stiff flat liner brush just so that I can really pay attention to the lines and it won't flare out too much on me or blend away. Also, I would say don't worry too much about making some really dramatic, crazy lines because realistically, if you were laughing to death, your face would go under a ton of strain. I also made sure to contour my nose a little bit to better reference the Joker's own long, pointed nose. That is just so fantastic. And then since depth is all about building up, I once again went over the deepest lines and started using that Aphrodite color, which is that really deep plum red color. and even further darkened all the lines that I wanted to be really sunken in. And continuing with that color, I started packing it onto the eyelid and then using a warmer orange-red shade to blend it out. The eyes we're going for are super messy, so I made sure to blend it out pretty sporadically. And then using a black pencil liner, I went along my waterlines and then just smudged it out with a flat liner brush. And as I was blending out, I also made sure to kind of pull the color down as if the makeup was slowly starting to run. Again, because if you were laughing to death, you'd probably be crying up a storm. Then jumping back to the teeth, I went in with this kind of mauve purple color that went really well for a cool toned shadow and just started shading the teeth. I shaded them on the inside, that way the outside will have the reflex. Since that's where light kind of hits when it reflects off your teeth, it always catches the outer portion that's sticking out. And then you could see I couldn't quite resist staying away from black entirely, so I am just using my black water activated face paint and doing a little bit of extra definition with a fine detail brush. I use this primarily to add shadow to the gum lines and just between the teeth. And then when they were fully defined, I also took a black shadow and applied this just to the outer corners of the teeth on the inside to make them look a little bit more recessed and in the back of the mouth. It is really easy to go overboard here, so just take your time and do a soft hand, and you can always build up as opposed to remove. Then here is where, if you want a little bit more of a pearly white smile, this is where you can kind of start adding it. I am using my white water activated face paint and adding all of these little definitions to the teeth. The center ones I'm making a little bit more white, and the outer ones, as you can see, I'm just adding a bit of a reflect highlight so that you can still tell they're there, but they are recessed in the mouth. I also find having the different shades on the teeth here helps with a little bit more of that wet look that your teeth kind of have from being in your mouth. And then to promote that wet look, I also added highlighting to the gum lines. Again, to better define them and show where they sit in the mouth, but because your teeth definitely have that reflect when you have a giant smile. I had kind of neglected / forgotten about the very outside edges around the mouth where the skin is lifted, so I quickly shaded those in with the exact same shadows we had used before and then added a little bit of extra definition just where the skin would be extra pulling. One extra step that isn't entirely necessary, but I think definitely helps with definition, was to take a little bit of a concealer and just go along the edges that I wanted to clean up a little bit or make pop out and look slightly raised. Then for mascara, this is weirdly satisfying because you actually can apply it as messily as you possibly can, and if it gets all over your face, even better. And then have your cat interrupt you 70 times during filming this because she is desperate for attention. One last little detail that I decided to add, because it was just really fun, was to add this black lid lacquer to the tops and bottoms of my eyes. Again, for that whole idea that if you were crying to death, it would just be going everywhere and you would have very destroyed makeup. And then that is it for this creepy, laughing gas Joker smile makeup. I had a ton of fun filming this one. It's kind of been on my to-do list for way too long, so I definitely hope you guys enjoy it. I had a ton of fun, and making these creepy as hell faces was a special moment. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments, so just let me know. If you enjoyed it, I would love a like and a share, mainly just because YouTube is not the nicest to Halloween tutorials this year, but what can you do? If you're new to this channel, then feel free to join the Team Dream family by subscribing, and if not, no worries. But I definitely hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching. I, of course, will see you next video, and until then, bye guys!